Yo, it's your favorite math doodle with too much time on his hands, Doodlemite here. Today we're going to talk about the speedster Flash from the CW show. And I want to first thank Dark Racer for this video idea, because I was not knowing what to make. And this gives me a reason to gush and demolish what I think about this show. Oh, but before I do that, I need to change something. There we go. Now, the Flash was shown in CW with Grant Gustin as a lead. You should know he didn't actually appear in the show first. He actually appeared in the Batman show disguised as a Green Arrow show, as basically just someone who gushed about Green Arrow.
That's interesting, right? I mean, why green? Black would be better for stealth and urban camouflage. Me personally, I think that he trained in some sort of forest or jungle environment, and the green is a nod to...
Who basically showed him to put on a mask, and then he got his own show later on. I think probably to see if people would be excited to see Barry Allen. And I do want to say before I get into anything of the actual show, Barry does not act like Barry Allen from the comics. Barry Allen from the comics is more of a dad figure. He doesn't really necessarily have a real personality. It's more of a, he's there for you, he'll help you. He's like what you consider Superman, but just more relatable, if that makes sense. In this one, they portray him more like Peter Parker and a little bit of Wally West from the comics. Which, I get it, because it's really hard to write a character like Barry Allen in the comics. But as someone who watched this when it first came out, I didn't really notice. So I was just kind of like, oh, okay, that's Barry Allen, okay. I mean, I knew something was off, but I didn't know why. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with this show, mainly because I did consistently watch it every week when it was coming out, from season 1 all the way to, I think, about season 5. But then I kind of just got over it because it started getting really repetitive and annoying to watch. And then it did crossovers and I didn't want to watch other shows, so it was weird. But when it started, it was amazing. They knew what they were doing when they first wrote that first season. They had mystery and suspense. And suspense I like, because I'm not a huge fan of suspense. But this suspense was cool because they were able to introduce... They had characters from the beginning that you learned to love so much. Like, they introduced Caitlin Snow and Cisco Ramon. He was one of my favorite characters. He was funny. He was relatable, even though they were all super scientists. I mean, maybe it's because he was actually the one that, added the goofiness, if you would say that, to everything. He's the one that would name all the villains. He's the one named to do the suits, do all the cool gadgets.
Well, at least Multiplex won't be able to hurt anyone else. Told you I'd come up with a cool name. Or at least a way to stop him from turning into a mist. The Mist! Okay, that's his name. End of discussion. I figured out a way to track Captain Cold.
You gotta stop naming these guys.
And he became good friends with Barry. Barry, I'm not gonna lie, he was, at least in my mind when I first saw it, and I forgot to appreciate it when I was younger, was how, he was obsessed with finding the man who killed his mom. And they took that part seriously. They didn't make that a joke. That was hard for him. And they took that seriously. But he will also have fun. This is what I miss about certain shows. That they forgot how to mix humor and sadness together. Because you don't have to be dark and gritty to be realistic. You can still have fun. And I'm saying that when this show decided to give the Scarlet Speedster a maroon suit instead. Which is so weird because the suit in this show, at least when it started, was just a suit for firefighters. Because it was supposed to help with the fires themselves. But, because Barry runs, he needs that suit to friction. Which doesn't make sense with the Speed Force. But I guess from the beginning, they didn't really think about how they were going to deal with that. The mysteries were so cool to me. Because they also had this other character, Harrison Wells. Which I'm not sure he was from the comics. I'd probably have to look that up. But he was also one of my favorite characters. He had the coolest line from the first episode that I will show right now because this was badass. with him. He was beautiful. Then literally in the first episode, at the end of it, the suspense was there. He could walk from his wheelchair. It was like, what? What's going on? Because he went into his room, and I was like, excuse me, what's going on? But later, because spoilers, this is a whole rant, he was Reverse Flash, and we had to watch him do things. And we're like, why can't everyone know? And everyone was so sad, because then Cisco was learning to gain superpowers. Because apparently in the comics, he was also another character named Vibe, which I had to look up, which is a terrible costume, but then the show decided to cool it up. And speaking of costumes, I should say, I know the maroon speedster is not for everyone, and there are some pieces of suits I'm not a fan, but the rest of it, I am. I know it looks like a motorcycle jacket a lot of time, but I love it. I love the suit. The only other weird things about the suit is the symbol. Why did they have to add a red thingy around it? That made no sense. Like, why? Like, you could have just added the white and it would have done nothing. Because in the beginning, he tried to keep it secret so close to his chest with the vibrating his face and all that stuff, which was cool. I missed that. But he just had the red one. It didn't make sense. Because even the red was brighter than the actual suit. You know how weird that is? When the red on the symbol is brighter than the suit itself. I mean, later on, they brighten up the suit, but it's like two circumstances, and it's weird, and it's confusing. But a lot of that was cool, too, at the same time. And the Reverse Flash, I should say. That suit, originally, I hated it because it was not comic accurate. I was so mad at it. But, like, I slowly started appreciating to be like, that is one of the most badass suits I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, oh my goodness, so good. And then the red eyes, nice touch. And the fact that the Reverse Flash always just kind of like vibrated his entire body, so it was hard to tell who he was. And speaking of that, spoilers again, when everyone found out that Harrison Wells was the Reverse Flash, or kind of, that's where it got confusing, that apparently he was also Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash. I mean, this was Reverse Flash, who, I guess, mutated his body and face to look like Harrison Wells because of some time travel shenanigans that caused him to be stuck in that time. Because apparently he wanted to kill his mom, and because he wanted to kill his mom, he couldn't go back because he wouldn't have been able to become the Reverse Flash because Barry never became Reverse Flash, which is weird because the idea of Barry's mom getting killed by anyone was the catalyst to Barry becoming the Flash, which was still confusing to me. Even now, I'm like, so what would have happened if you never went back in time to kill him? Did you being stuck there be part of... That was confusing to me, I'm not gonna lie. It was still confusing even to this day. Could they even try to fix it years later? And it was weird. But, again, everyone had great personality in the beginning of the show. Barry was Barry. There is one thing that I will never understand and I will never enjoy because it's very uncomfortable and really weird. They introduced Iris West, Barry's love interest, right? And that's how we do it, right? And I was like, oh, cool. But the way they did it was so strange and really uncomfortable. There was this other character named Joe West, which was a cop, who basically adopted him after his mom died. And, his dad went to jail, if you know his origin. So Joe adopted him. He already has a daughter named Iris. So they basically lived together since Barry was 11. And also, Barry considered Joe his dad, too. So isn't that a little...
Goodbye, Dad.
Goodbye, son.
That's a little weird because later on in the show, Iris and Barry get married. And I'm like, huh? Excuse me, what? I had more of a connection between Barry and Caitlin. I saw all those ships. I was one of them. It's like, that connection is so much better. I could feel it radiating it off there. Like, you have it there. They even had an episode where Barry got not taken over. He got replaced by a shapeshifter who was in love with Caitlin. So he he turned into Barry and he kissed her and she kissed him and it was like, oh my god, this is so cute. I wish it was actually Barry.
A long time ago.
Barry,
And the way after when Caitlin and Barry saw each other, I was like, excuse me, can we please just have that? I want that. I don't want the Iris, because I hated Iris. Iris was also very mean to Barry in the beginning of the show, and kind of just bullying him. It was weird. I'm ranting and loving the show at the same time, if you can't tell. I do like how the suit was involving around the show, but then there was a weird section where he had a weird rubbery helmet compared to a more suit, spandex suit that he has later on. It was weird. They fixed it later, but it was weird. I'm not, I love it because everything looks like the Flash except the yellow boots, which I don't know why. Later on, they decided, you know what? Let's make the boots the big thing of the Flash. You know what? In the beginning of the show, around the beginning of the show, we were more excited about the ring itself, the Flash ring. We were like, can we have that? And I guess they try to change it to, it needs to be more fabricy so it can fit in there. But then you do forget that they also showed that for the Reverse Flash, and he had it with his rubbery type suit, and we did not question it at all. We were all like, you know what? That's okay. They also introduced other characters, which I didn't really care for, like Elongated Man. They introduced all his rogues. My favorite rogue was, of course, Captain Cold, but I don't remember him too much. I don't think I remember a lot of his villains, to be honest. This show was like all over the place, but it was cool, not gonna lie. It was something else. And one thing I should say, because this will always haunt me and really weird me out, is how Barry's kid, Nora, goes back in time and sees him before they even have her, before they even think about having a child, and that weirds me out when there's so many episodes with him and his future daughter that you're like, when are they gonna actually have the child? And it's so confusing. Later it turns out he has another kid, and it's like, oh my god, and you're making Bart that? I'm like, no. It confuses me even more, and I'm like, why? Why you gotta do this to me? I get it in the comics, the Flash, comics are really weird and they can be convoluted, but they try to streamline that. They could have done it with this. I love what they were trying to do, but how it got to where it is, where I stopped, because the only time I realized that they had good seasons were when they had speedster villains. I mean, by the end they tried that too, but they failed. So by the 3 up to 5, they had speedsters like Savitar, the God of Speed. Reverse Flash Zoom was terrifying as hell. I don't have too much to say because he was scary.
I will scour this city until I hunt you down. And when I do, all of you will feel my wrath.
But they also introduced Jay Garrett Flash, and that was also weird because his hat didn't belong to him. It was actually the Zoom's dad's hat that he wore to pretend to be him. It was weird. So a lot of this is just a rant of me talking about the show, because a lot of these are not going to be streamlined. I usually just record it. I don't have a script. I just kind of record and see what sticks. Because I wear a mask, I can't really read the thing. I also need glasses, so how's that going to work? That's what I thought about The Flash as a show itself. I didn't talk about the entirety of it because I haven't watched the entirety of it. I watched pieces of it, but it was amazing and bad at the exact same time. It's weird. But what did you think about The Flash? Did you watch the entire thing through, or did you stop by season 5 maybe? Because that's where I stopped. And if you like these rant type videos of me talking about shows that you guys inspired me to do, please leave your comments down below on what else I should talk about, because I like these. These are fun. I just talked about it, and then you see what you like about it. So now you're at the end of the video, and I just wanted to say thank you for those who decide to actually have the time to comment down below and ask what you would like me to react to. It's actually really nice. It helps me in this channel. It helps me grow. It makes this community bigger, and I just wanted to say thank you. So if you have any more questions, please leave your comments down below, and I hope to see everyone in the next video. Bye.